This is the I Don't Want a Divorce podcast with Dr. David Clarke, episode number 16. And we're going to focus in this podcast on how men can begin to open up and share. But first, I'm going to answer two more questions that podcast listeners emailed in. And we'd love to get these questions, know what's going on out there in your lives. I like to answer questions. If you want, and again, if you need more advice from me and on a more deeper, more serious level and extended, I do phone advice sessions. It's on the website, David E. Clarke, Clarke with an E, davideclarkephd.com. You can access that there. There's email, there's phone advice. I mean, you have to pay for it, but it's reasonable, and it can really make a difference if you're really struggling with something. You like the things I'm saying, it makes sense to you, then you can access me from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, frankly. Okay, here's a question. This is concerning my book, Enough is Enough, How to Leave an Abusive Relationship. In that book, I give as a clear example, a very practical example of God wanting you to leave an abusive husband, the story of Abigail and Nabal in 1 Samuel 25. And her question is this. This is a lady, good question, and I got the answer. She says, I have listened to all your podcasts on Enough is Enough. Well, good for you. I'm thankful for the information. You talked about Abigail leaving Nabal as an example of a wife leaving an abusive husband. Yes, I do. To me, it didn't seem like she was leaving Nabal. She did return to him. So I'm not sure I understand how you get that from this account. Well, let me explain. I believe she did leave him in more ways than one. Her actions were absolutely extraordinary for that time. And this is true to a degree in the Middle East even today. As most of you know, women don't have rights, can't drive, can't talk, can't leave the home on their own. I mean, it's ridiculous. But back then, infinitely worse. She risked almost certain death in racing to meet David and his men. That's the leaving part. She did it in secret. She did not check with her miserable husband Nabal, who had all authority in that day and age. Absolutely total authority. A woman wasn't even a person. She was a possession. She broke all those laws. She gathered her family. She had support of the young men in the household. She gathered items that were Nabal's, not hers, provisions, and raced to see David. That's leaving. She took a stand that changed her marriage forever, and the only outcomes for her, the only outcomes were, number one, she would be killed. Nabal could have chopped her head off, and no one would have done a thing to him, not in that day and age. Or she would be kicked out with nothing. That happened in that day. We see some of in the biblical stories. She would have been turned out on her own, maybe the clothes on her back, nothing else, to starve to death, and no one would have helped her. So she was leaving him one way or the other. Now, I think the deeper question here this lady is getting to, and I get this, it is incredibly hard to leave, even an abusive man. That's why I wrote the book, to get you ready to leave. I believe there's clear biblical evidence for leaving, not just in this story of Abigail and Nabal, but instructions in Scripture in terms of leaving someone who is abusive, who is in serious sin. Here's another question. This is an unequally yoked couple. Of course, meaning one is a Christian and one is not, and they're married. She says, my husband says he believes in God, but that's about it. They are going through the same vicious hurt and anger cycle, and she's desperate. She's trying not to give up. Well, what I'd say to this dear lady is this. You have to stop playing your part of the game. It is time for tough love. A man that says he believes in God, but there is no fruit in his life and is not acting as a godly man, may not know God at all through his son Jesus. So time for tough love. You need to back off, stop trying, stop pursuing him. You need to get his attention in a tough love way, create a crisis. In this crisis of him facing losing you, and I would again recommend my book, I Don't Love You Anymore, for the specific steps. This man's in serious sin. And as the leader in the home, he's not doing what he needs to do to fix that problem. So, get I Don't Love You Anymore, and we create a crisis. We hope through that crisis this man genuinely comes to Christ or becomes a much better Christian than he is now and starts acting the right way. If this gets his attention, then we move to, again, I have a book for everything, but these are helpful books. I Don't Want a Divorce. This is the rebuilding of the marriage. And again, for questions like this, often it can be helpful to get the phone advice from me, but that's on the website as well. All right, let's get to how men can open up and share with their wives. This again is from the book, my book, Honey, We Need to Talk. Now, I have a tool that's going to help you, Mr. Clam, this is talking to the men, open up and talk on a deeper, more personal level with your woman. This tool has helped me and thousands of men I've worked with in my therapy office through phone and email advice sessions and at my marriage seminars, which I give across the country. What is the tool? It's called the PAD. Very simply, the PAD. Your woman loves when you respond to what she says. She also loves when you share your own personal stuff. The PAD will help you do that. Get a small pad of paper. Now, I'm a paper guy. I love the lumber industry, so I'm a paper guy. So I have a pad at my office. I have one right in front of me here, my studio, in my home where we're taping these podcasts in Tampa. I have a pad in my car. I have a pad at my office in Tampa. And I keep that pad with me at all times. So if you're a paper guy like I am, keep a pad of paper and a pen with you at all times. Or you can also, most guys will do this, of course. I'm not really a technology guy. I have an iPhone, but I wouldn't use it for this. You can also use your iPhone or your iPad to write things down. That's fine too. As you go through the day, record personal things about yourself that you think will interest your woman. Then you talk about these personal items with her during your 3 30-minute couple talk times. You're thinking, but what kinds of things do I record? What do I write down? Well, good question. I'm going to cover that right now. Here, I'm just going to walk these through quickly. There's much more, of course, in the book that you can really gain from both of you reading Honey, We Need to Talk. But these are the categories you'll jot down on your pad. And again, you got to jot these things down, whether it's electronically or on an actual piece of paper. Why? You know why, men. You don't have a memory. Don't trust your memory. You don't have one. Basic guy goes through his day. I'm the same way. I'm a clinical psychologist. If I don't write things down in preparation for a couple talk time with Sandy the blonde, I'll get home and I'll have literally nothing to say. How was your day, Sandy will ask. If I haven't written down something, I'll say, I don't know. Or, what happened today? I don't know. I don't know doesn't build a conversation. Or I'll say, fine, or okay, I guess it was, not helpful. Women want the specifics and they need them. So on your pad, jot down these types of things. And again, this is true, man. Can you imagine coming to your woman, you have written out some things in preparation to talk with her. She sees you've got things written down. She'll love it. She'll be thrilled because you thought about me. That means you love me. You are intentional about this. Yeah, that's a nice way to start a couple talk time. So here's some things you can cover. Events. Talk to her. Jot down events that occur in your day-to-day life. Work meetings, conversations with coworkers, friends, neighbors, family, seminars you attended, sporting events, the things that actually happen during the day. If it's something interesting or funny comes out of one of these things, jot it down because you won't remember it. Strong emotions, another great category for a man. She's always asking you that really annoying question, isn't she? How do you feel about that? And you usually give the same lame response. Well, I don't know. Because you didn't write it down. Women are in constant touch with their emotions. We men aren't. They come and they go pretty fast. When they come, jot it down. That is something that will indicate something about yourself if you have a strong emotion. That could be the beginning of a conversation. That would be deeper. So beat her to the punch. Before she asks you how you feel, tell her. Jot down the strong emotions you experience during the day. Anger, frustration, joy, relief, hurt, fear, disappointment, peace, and share them with her. You're thinking, Dave, I've never done that in my life. And that feels like it's pretty vulnerable and pretty intimate. Yeah, it is. There's one person in the universe that's entitled to that, the personal you, strong emotions, and that's your woman. No, nobody else but her. Current stresses. Most men are terrible at this. I was for years. First 10 years of my marriage, I didn't share my work stresses with Sandy. She was raising the kids, and we'd talk about that. She'd ask about work. Well, of course, as a psychologist, I can't share personal details, obviously. But I could share things. I didn't do that. I thought, I don't want to burden her, this is not important. The real reason was I didn't want to reveal myself, and Sandy was smart enough to know that. She'd say, Dave, I'm tougher than you think. I'm raising 4 kids. You think I'm a wimp? I can take it. I want to know you, what's going on, things that bother you. So I began to share my stresses, my worries, things that bothered me. And man, Sandy appreciated it. She felt like she knew me. We could talk about it. We could come to solutions. I've married a brilliant woman, smarter than I'll ever be. She could run a corporation. Now she's my secretary and office manager. We worked together. But even back in those days before that, we began to share, and we were a team. It made a huge difference in our marriage. Plus, I figured out I could wash the stress out of my system. I wouldn't talk to anybody else about my stresses. Too private. Maybe my best friend Bob. It could be, but basically I wouldn't do that. I would share all of it with Sandy on a day-to-day basis. And even Bob isn't available every day, so I would wash it out with Sandy, and I'd feel better. I could sleep better. I wasn't having, stress-related problems physically. Another category, personal and relationship memories. Most, if not all, of our deeper conversations are about things that happened in the past. Things that you shared at your wedding and your honeymoon and the trip to Disney World and going to the beach with the family and the birth of your first grandchild and your second and third grandchild and what happened before. That's what you can jot down. And as you go through your day, sometimes memories from your past surface. Now again, jot them down or they'll be fleeting and they'll be gone. Women remember everything. I don't know how they do it, but they do. We don't. Again, childhood, could be your childhood, moments from your childhood, family and friends, school, jobs, trips, joyful times, traumatic times, illnesses. Sometimes, as I said before, the memories will be from your relationship, things that you went through. Sandy and I just went on a cruise with our best friends, Bob and Pam Johns, and had a wonderful time talking, laughing with them, things that happened during the cruise. We're talking about that this week. It happened last week. We're talking about that. These are great conversations. I'm bringing up stuff because I jotted them down about stuff that we can talk about the cruise. Decisions is another key area to share with your wife. The typical man, me included, tends to think through a decision and come to a conclusion without ever talking about it with his woman. Bad idea for two reasons. Look, first, two heads are better than one when making a decision, and two, you hurt her by cutting her out of the process. Tell her what you're thinking. Get her feedback every step of the way. Don't just do it all in your head and then say, well, here's what I think. She wants to know where that came from. Here's a good one. Most men don't do this. Your relationship with God. If you know God through Jesus Christ, and I hope and pray you do, that is a great source of conversation. As you go through your day, God is with you, isn't he? He's guiding, he's directing, he's showing you things. And so you can share that with your wife. What's going on in your spiritual life? What's going on in your quiet time? What you're gained in your Bible reading, insights from your Bible reading, ways you're applying the Bible to your life. Ways God is guiding and directing your life, spiritual victories, spiritual defeats, topics you're praying about. This is a gold mine for the woman. She will faint when you start sharing these personal things. Now, the deal is, ladies, all the personal things your husband shares or your man shares, you don't share with any other person on earth. Not your mother, especially not your mother, your sister, your neighbor, your kids, no one. It's in the vault, just between you and him. Positive thoughts about her. Women love to hear about themselves, and they should, not in a selfish way, just, what do you think about me? Talk about her personality, her character traits, patience, love, sense of humor, kindness, strong work ethic. I've told Sandy this past week, she was extraordinary during the funeral. It was her dad died just recently, about a month ago. Tragic, awful, surprising. Sandy was incredible during this time. She's organized, working with her brother Eric, and talking through the issues and organizing his things and going out there at the funeral, just greeting people. She was terrific. I know God was with her, but I want her to know that was incredible to me. It was awesome. That's a strong person. We've had many conversations about that. This is the type of thing I'm talking about. Talk about her. Observe her closely, and at least once every 2 weeks, tell her how you think she's doing in her personal life. Is she happy? Is she stressed? Is she anxious? Is she busy? Is she fulfilled? Ask her, honey, how are you doing? How are you doing in life? You seem to be a little out of it these last couple of days, and you seem a little depressed. Would you talk to me about that? And then lastly, evaluations of your relationship. I'm telling you what, your woman, I guarantee you, your woman spends a lot of time thinking about your relationship. So when you evaluate your relationship and share how you think it's going, your thoughts will resonate with her. What do you think is going well in your relationship? What's a weak area? What are things you need to improve or things you'd like her to improve? I'm telling you, these categories will make a difference, men, in your lives. Listen to this podcast together. Talk about what I'm sharing in these different categories. Use the pad. It will revolutionize your relationship. And I'd recommend Honey, We Need to Talk, book I wrote on communication several years ago. Interactive, you work through it together. Again, if your marriage is failing, if you're really struggling, that's what Dave Clarke is for. This is what I do for a living with God's help. There's email advice, there's phone advice, there's the books that will help you. Marriage intensives may prove vital to you. We see marriages turn around in 1, 2, 3-day seminars, or marriage intensives. So, all that I offer is on the website David E. Clarke, Clarke with an E on the end, davideclarkephd.com.